Good morning. This is Trang Vo at the California ISO. Thank you for joining us for the release user group on May 13, 2025. This call and webinar are being recorded and will be published for your convenience. Okay, so we'll start with the release plan summary today. For independent 2025 releases, CP/M Enhancements Track 1 did activate on May 1st. For the rest of May, we have FERC Order 2023, the Generator Interconnection Lifecycle, Release 2.3, that is planned for May 15. Hybrid Resources Phase 2C for the RIMS changes is also planned for activation May 15. We have the Congestion Revenue Rights System Upgrade Hard Cutover that is set for May 22nd. And then on to FERC, so that's our May items, and then we move on to FERC 881 for Track 2 with the availability of WebLine R, that's planned by July. And then we have the remaining FERC Order 2023 Generator Interconnection Lifecycle, Release 2.4, that is planned for Q4. For subscriber participating transmission owner model, I did break out the deployments as we've been discussing. So for 2020, and I've also moved that instead of fall 2025, I've made that an independent now because that was a standalone project in the fall, and it is not tied to any other initiative. And so wanted to just reflect that it is independent now. And for the first part of the implementation, that will include changes to master file, Sierra, and markets, and then also have cyber and ITS consuming new data. That's planned for October. And then for the rest of 2025, we still have unwarranted storage BCR that is in scope with a schedule to be determined. For independent 2026 release, we have transmission exchange agreement set for full activation in March. We have the remaining scope for subscriber participating transmission ownership model, and that is for settlements in CMRI, so that is planned in Q1 of 2026, and settlements will be retroactive to, and CMRI are planned to be retroactive to the 2025 activation date. Then we have FERC 881, Track 3 for the market application and look-ahead applications, and that's planned by July. So that'll be a phased implementation that's planned for January to July 2026. And then for spring 2026 release, we have our DAME and EDAM ISO activations, as well as our EDAM and WEAM onboarding. For future releases, I'm not going to go over those in too much detail today, but they still are on our radar with a schedule to be determined for WEIM fab enhancements or one remaining enhancement. And then the enabling of NGRs for inter-SC trades, which will likely be bundled with DAME and EDAM cyber changes. And then we have transmission service and market scheduling priorities, Track 4, and then the settlement upgrade project that will be after the DAME and EDAM go live. So I do have slides for each one of these, so I'm going to just continue and move forward and take questions along the way. So we'll start with independent 2025 releases in order of activation. So the first one, again, is for 2023 Generator Interconnection Lifecycle. Release 3 is on track for May 15, and this is a vendor change to the GRIP platform. Okay, and then we're on track for a Q4 for that final release. And then just a reminder, actually, that's all that I needed to communicate on this one. Any questions or comments on for 2023 Generator Interconnection Lifecycle? All right. We'll move on to Hybrid Resources 2C for RIMS. No changes to the scope here, but we'll go to the milestones. So on May 6th, we did have a live demonstration that was provided for the changes that will be implemented as part of hybrid resources 2C for RIMS. Again, there was no market simulation for that, so we provided the demonstration in lieu of the market simulation. And for production, we are on track to activate May 15. And there are a lot of supporting materials that are here on these slides and available on the CAISO.com site, either on release planning or the NRI page. So this is just some guidance here that we've covered and had in the presentation for some time for production readiness. And then on the release planning page, we have a readiness note as well as 3 different templates that apply to this implementation. Any questions or comments on hybrid resources 2C for RIMS? All right. So on to CRR upgrade. No changes to the scope here. So we do have our customer partnership group meeting on May 15. Our last customer partnership group was on May 1st, and then the recording and presentation are available on that page. Market simulation has wrapped up, and then we have the PRR and for the BPM changes here for reference, and we are on track for that hard cutover, May 22nd. So internally, the ISO is doing a lot of preparation and build out of the new CRR system in preparation of that May 22nd hard cutover, and there is also a lot of associated communication to those that are impacted for provisioning and otherwise. So please stay tuned for more information on this as we get closer to the hard cutover. Any questions or comments on CRR? Okay. All right, we have other references here that are helpful in preparation for that production cutover. So we have the plan that in calendar form that is posted. And we have the BRS that has been up there for quite some time. And then we also have a document that shows the web posting changes that's available on the release planning page that shows the transition of the web posting files from where they are now to where they will go after the CRR upgrade. Right. Okay. So now we'll go on to FERC 881. So this slide I beefed up a little bit to just align it with the supporting visuals. So it's not new information, it's just more getting it into the same format so that we can look like for like all of the different milestones across the 3 tracks for FERC 881. So for the tariff activities, April 30th was the last activity there for the acceptance of a couple of the filings. And then for the BRSs, the last update was April 4th, the Track 2 BRS revision. And then for the tech spec webline, our tech spec has been out there since November 24 of 2024. And then we've made revisions to the webliner specs, and we cover that in the every other week technical user group. So if I always recommend that you go to the dev site for the latest version of any of the tech specs, and then stay tuned to the technical user group, and we will announce any changes and go over those when there are revisions. For market simulation, you'll see a few other line items that were, again, reflected in the visual, but just brought here. We completed the Track 2 limited market simulation, and that just Track 2, the full market simulation builds upon that one that started in January. So we are in the full Webline RUI and API market simulation where you're able to also run the unstructured tests, and that goes through the end of June. In June of this year, we also planned the market simulation for the TR autoloader of 4 seasons, and then in August, the TR UI for 4 seasons. For Track 3, we have the day-ahead and real-time market simulation that's planned in November of 2025, and that will be with the EDAM market simulation. And then into production, I provided a little bit more granularity for each of the activities here. So we completed the track 1 first 2 line items, and then for the track 1 activation, that'll happen with WebLine R availability and production by June 30. And that should be 2025, so I'll update that. And then for track 2, the WebLine R production ready is June 30, and then WebLine R will be active for users to submit seasonal and AARs by July 12th, which is the compliance date. And then for track 3, we have market application and look-ahead applications. That will be a phased production implementation from January to July. The first part of that will be real-time by January 31st of 2026. And then day ahead by April 30, 2026. And then the remaining compliance work and usage of AARs in ETCC and WebWheel is planned for July 2026. I put the by December 17th date because FERC did approve our extension through December of 17th of 2026. However, our implementation plan is built to show an implementation by July 2026 ahead of that December date. Okay, but that just gives us a buffer in case of unforeseen circumstances. Any questions or comments on the milestones here? All right, so I'm gonna go quickly through the rest of the 881 slides because they are just the same information that are here for reference that we've covered for some time. So we have just more information on each of those tracks here. And then we have the visual timeline view of those milestones, or some of those milestones here for track 2 and WebLine R. And then we have the track 3 items, milestones here that are also reflected in the milestone slide. So just a visual to help show that a little bit better. And then this is another slide that shows additional details for each of these phases and tracks. And same here. And then these are just ways to get engaged and stay engaged for this implementation. And then the different WebLine R interfaces and references that are available here. Okay. All right. We also have the WebLine R access matrix. I'm going to move on to subscriber PTO model. So for this one, there's no changes to the scope slide, but I do want to emphasize here on the impacted systems that Master File, Sierra Cyber, ITS, and IFM RTM, those are the ones that are planned for October of 2025. And settlements and dreams, along with CMRI, are planned for 2026. So that is reflected here in the milestone slide. So I want to go through some revisions that we have here. So starting with the settlement, starting with the settlement config guides, and actually for this one, I believe we do have a revision of the BRS as well that I'll update. But the settlements config guides will apply to this implementation, but they will be published a little bit later just because those are relevant for the 2026 implementation of settlements. For tech specs, we did publish on May 5th the master file tech specs along with the GRDT file and then the RDT definitions. And those are available on the dev site, and we did go over that in the last technical user group a week ago. For BPMs, we're planning to have PRRs by July of this year, and then we will have training and market simulation for this as we build out the schedule. So we'll work to determine what the best approach is for that based on the split activation. And then for deployment and activation, we have deployment for Master File, Sierra Markets, and Cyber and ITS planned for October of this year, with the production activation October as well. And then for the production deployment of settlements and CMRI, that's planned for Q1 of 2026. And when we do deploy settlements and CMRI, again, the expectation is that, and the plan currently is that those will be retroactive to the October 2025 activation date. So that's our plan as of now, and then as we continue to build out the schedule and details, we will share more. Are there any questions or comments on subscriber PTO model? Kevin, please go ahead.
Hey, Tran, this is Kevin from PG. Can you hear me?
Yep, I can.
Okay,
Thanks.
perfect. I believe you're aware that the BRS is a version 1.1 right now. I just wondering, I'm just wondering, like, if you guys are planning to make some revisions on that BRS only for the October deployments. Are you going to support them, or like should we refer to that the latest BRS for both of the deployments?
Yeah, thanks, Kevin, for the question. So yes, I'll update the slide to show that BRS revision that's out there, as you mentioned, and we don't plan a revision just to separate the deployment. So you can, because all of the requirements are the same, those are what we're planning, but we're just splitting out the deployment. So if there is another revision that comes up, we may consider including the marking of the requirements as, part 1 and part 2, but we won't make a change just for that. So you can refer to that BRS and then just note that any of the settlements in CMRI or settlements and reporting requirements will be a later deployment.
Yeah, okay.
And then we'll take an opportunity to update if we have any other material revisions. Okay.
Okay, sounds good. And do you have a plan for publishing the market simulations in Aero elsewhere?
Not at this time. So I have them marked on there, and we do plan them, and so that I can assure you. But we don't have an ETA yet for that. So I'll work with Martin and the project team to kind of build out a schedule based on the other items that they have in the queue.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Kevin. Okay. All right. So hopefully that provides some clarity on the phased implementation. And so now we'll move on to unwarranted storage BCR. Okay, so one thing is that we did have a comment period that closed, and I know that we're still providing feedback on the comments that were received for unwarranted storage PCR, and in parallel with that, we're still building out the schedule. There's no update that I have today for the implementation, but again, as a reminder, once we do deploy, it will be retroactive to December 1st of 2024. Okay. Any questions on this one? Okay, so independent 2026 releases. I only have slides for TEA because the other two items, 881 and subscriber PTO, those were covered in 2025, but as we complete the 2025 implementations for those, I'll shift those over to 2026. All right. So no changes to the scope. So what we have upcoming is a full market simulation plan for January, and then the full production activation plan for March. So no changes to this. Any questions here? Okay. And then on to spring 2026 release. So on the timeline, just a general note is that we're on track so we are in connectivity testing right now, and so I've been communicating the availability of the system, the new code and data in the MapStage environment to support connectivity and then get a head start on integration testing. We're on track to start integration testing June 1st, and I will continue to communicate in the technical user group and publish updates on different tech specs and artifact revisions, and then availability of new functionality and data in the MapStage environment. We also have the DAME and EDAM ISO BA market simulation calls that will be once weekly as of now, that you can register to participate in, and then Martin will lead those, and we'll cover those types of topics and support for market simulation activities, including connectivity and integration testing in those market sim calls as well. All right. So let's move on to training. So this slide was updated last week, And it just provides some clarifications here in bold. So let's just start from the top and just for June 2025, next month, we do kick off the EDAM onboarding train the trainer sessions, and those are closed sessions again for onboarding entities. And then for our implementation trainings, we start August 18 for day-ahead market enhancements and extension, and that is for market-related changes. And then on August 20, we'll have the DAME settlements specific training. There are a lot of settlements changes, so it was worthwhile to have a dedicated settlements session. And then we will execute market simulation, and then after that, in April of 2026, we'll have a refresher training for day-ahead market enhancements and for the market-related changes. And then in April, we'll also have a refresher training focused on settlements for DAME. Right. Okay. And then for settlements and the settlement user group, we've been giving updates, and I think the last milestone was the April 29th publication that was communicated out. And then our next milestone will be the second draft config output file planned for August 29. Okay. And this settlements update applies to all three of those implementations above. Let's go on to day-ahead market enhancements. Okay, so for upcoming milestones across all three of the projects, we have the PRRs for the draft BPM changes that are planned by July 2025 to support the market simulation starting in June. And then also for configurable parameters in August of this year, we will start the, have the implementation working group kickoff. And then after that, starting October and through March, we'll have monthly configurable parameters working group meetings to discuss the analysis of the parameters and leveraging the market simulation and parallel operations activities. And then we have training, as we mentioned, in August for market and settlements. And then the market simulation is set to start September 2nd. And then we have deployments in production by February 1st inactive, and then the full activation May 1st of 26. Any questions or comments on DAME? Okay, so for EDAM and EDAM ISO BA, the updates will mostly be the same. I'm going to go through some of these references that we have for the configurable parameter working group I've covered in the milestone slides already, and then go to the EDAM milestones. Okay, so what we have upcoming again is going to be BPMs, and so one thing that's different here on this BPM slide is just which BPMs are being updated. So you'll see that in the in EDAM we have the we also have the EIM BPM and then a new EDAM BPM that are set to be provided as well. And so for market instruments, market operations and settlements and billing, those are shared updates with DAME and then with EDAM ISO BA. For market simulation, this is onboarding market simulation that aligns with the DAME implementation market simulations that to start September 2nd. And then we have parallel operations that's planned to start January 26th of 2026. All right. Production activation is May 1st for EDAM for ISO and PAC, and then for PGE is October 1st of 2026, and then we have Bank and LA for 2027 activation. Right? Any questions on EDAM specifically? Okay. All right, EDAM ISO BAA, actually, Tanya, please go ahead.
Good morning, Trang. This is Chen Yu from PG&E. Yes, from the training slide, I noticed that EDAM training has been taking off from previous. So we also would like to know, for example, like for the EDAM, for the RSE process, and also the settlement, and we will kind of like to receive some training on that front. Is that, just wonder if is a case of kind of bundled with the DAME training, or is it going to be separate or different timeline?
That's a good question. I will follow up on that. I believe it is embedded, and that's why you see that referred to as the DAME and the extension. So I'll confirm that, and then I'll let you know, and then we can update folks on the next call.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. All right. Yep. Okay. So for EDAM ISO BAA, so what we have is, again, shared updates for settlements, and then for BPMs with the other DAME and EDAM slides, and then also a market simulation plan to start September 2nd, and then activation May 1st. Okay, any questions on this? Okay, and then the last slide that I'll cover today is just the WEAM BHE Montana and WEAM Black Hills onboarding. And we are working towards starting the market simulation in December of this year. All right, but no changes to this. This is progressing well, and we will coordinate these activities around the EDAM activities. Okay. All right, so for future releases, I'm not going to cover those. We do have the slides here for reference, and then our next release user group meeting is going to be in 2 weeks. And then next week, we have a technical user group meeting where I'll continue to cover the interface changes for DAME, EDAM, EDAM ISO, BAA, as well as other projects. And that is all that I have today. Any final questions or comments?
Hi, Cheng, this is Chen Yu. I just want to circle back on the question I asked, but then when I look at the slide, the description, it did say covers the DAME, EDAM, and EDAM ISO BAA participation groups. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, well, thank you for the update. So appreciate that. All right, got any other questions or comments? Okay. Thank you all for joining, and we look forward to talking to you again. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.